Bajaj Pulsar as a brand name has been liberating masses and getting them into sporty biking community for years now. It has won million hearts across the world, and it's time for the NS twins of their lineup to get a new update. Hello and welcome to TriSpark. This is Bharadwaj and these are the new 2023 NS200 and the NS160. In this video, I'm going to tell you what are the updates on these motorcycles. So let's get started. So before I tell you about the NS200 and the NS160, let me tell you a little bit about the Pulsar brand that is currently in India right now. Bajaj has 11 Pulsars on offer with varying capacities and varying price range in the Indian market currently. And what Bajaj says is NS200 and the NS160 has its own separate fan base, especially in the southern Indian markets. And that is the reason Bajaj is still updating their motorcycles and offers 11 models in India. With that, let us move on to the updated models right here. So in terms of pricing, the Pulsar NS160 is priced at 1.34 lakh ex-showroom and the NS200 is priced at 1.47 lakh ex-showroom. Both bikes are available in two colors that you're seeing here, the black and the white. These are the only two colors on offer for now. And in terms of design, the NS200 is more or less the same, but the NS160 has now become the identical brother of its elder sibling. So in terms of design, there is a lot of changes on the NS160, but the NS200 remains almost the same. Be it the headlight or be it the entire front fascia, it is almost the same. You now get these carbon fiber bits on the front and the rear fender that absolutely looks cool, and also you can spot the upside down forks. I will come to that in a bit. And coming to the side design as well, you could see there is a lot of beautiful graphics and also that black paint scheme. Actually, I personally feel the black looks way better than the white because of the red and black graphics being appealing to us. And with that, on the rear as well, the NS160 here, you can see the entire rear fascia is also identical to NS200 and 160. You get the same split LED tail lamp and the split grab rails and also the tire hugger and also the rear tail tidy. Everything else remains the same. In terms of lighting as well, both motorcycles continue to get halogen lighting. We would have loved to see at least an LED headlamp, at least on the bigger one, the NS200, but for now you get halogen units on both the bikes for the indicators, for the headlamps, and even for the pilot lamp as well, except for the LED tail lamp. Now finally, the alloy wheels that you see on both the motorcycles are changed. It is now sourced from their eldest sibling, the 250s, so it is more lighter in construction and also it is more stiffer in construction is what Bajaj said, so it gets new alloy wheels. Now with that, we come to the end of the design and we now move on to the instrument cluster, where there have been significant changes. So the instrument cluster layout more or less remains the same, but the internals of it or the technology of it is changed a little bit. Now it uses the CAN bus system to get the gear position indicator, the distance to empty, and also the range and also the fuel efficiency as well. So the instrument cluster is completely laid out and it is also backlit for better readability. However, we wish that the display could have been little bigger, and also on the NS200 could have got the Bluetooth technology that now is in the trend. However, the NS160 and the NS200 both gets the same set of instrument clusters and same set of features on both the motorcycles. The reason I have moved the NS160 out of the frame is now I want to touch upon the mechanicals of the NS200, and there are little similarities. Except for the engine, there are actually most of the mechanicals on both the motorcycles are same. Starting with, you get USD forks at the front and there is monoshock suspension at the rear. The monoshock gets a preload adjust as well. Braking is also same, is done by a 300mm rotor at the front and a 260mm rotor at the rear. Both bikes get dual channel ABS as standard. However, coming to the engine, this obviously has a bigger capacity engine, 199cc, a liquid cooled engine. This produces 24.5 PS of power at 9,750 RPM, and it also produces 18.7 Newton meters of torque at 8000 RPM. It gets a 6-speed gearbox. Now, speaking of the NS200, we rode it around the track that we are here and also on the streets as well. We can see that the USD forks has certainly made a lot of difference. Even though it has the same 130 mm travel that was there on the telescopic forks, it has gotten bigger in profile and also it aids to a lot of rigidity. The steering is become even more sharp. NS200 was never a bike with a slow steering. It had a very beautiful steering, but this one has become even more sharper. So when we were taking this bike on the track around the corners especially, I had to ease off on the steering a little bit so that the efforts of riding this bike hard on the track becomes way more easier thanks to that USD forks. Rest of the bike remains the same. However, I would have loved a 140 section rubber at the rear on the NS200, which would have aided for even more confidence while leaning into it, and also a little more in terms of functionality as well. For now, both motorcycles get 17-inch wheels, 100 by 80 section tire at the front and 130 by 70 section tire at the rear. I would have loved to see a 140 section tire. And also in terms of performance as well, the engine is now OBD2 ready. They are yet to get the certification. Bajaj says it is just a matter of certification, and also it is E20 compliant. You can run ethanol 20 fuel on it, and as far as the engine is concerned, it is always it is refined. We can see that the engine has gone through various refinements and it has now become one of the smoothest engine in the category. So all in all, the NS200 performs really well with that USD forks addition. The bike has become even more nimble, even more agile, and probably with a 140 section aftermarket upgrade, you will feel the difference even more. But in terms of mileage, you will have to compromise on it a little bit with the bigger rubber. So that's about the NS200. Now let's move on to the NS160. So let's start with the NS160, and again, as I mentioned earlier, the mechanicals all remains the same. It gets the same USD fork at the front and a monoshock at the rear, 300 mm rotor, 260 mm rotor, brakes are same, dual channel ABS, but where it is changed is in the engine. Now it gets 160cc engine. Although the NS200 is liquid cooled, this is oil cooled, so there's no inclusion of a coolant here. The engine oil comes out and gets cooled through via a radiator that's mounted front, and also this bike gets a kicker while the NS200 gets only the self start. With that, even this engine is E20 compliant and OBD2 ready. Everything else remains the same, only is that the performance is a little bit less in this compared to the NS200. The feel of the motorcycle, now this is a high praise I would like to tell Bajaj. The feel of the motorcycle is identical to the 200. That's because of mechanicals largely remaining the same. Where you would feel the difference is obviously in terms of performance. When you're ringing the throttle, the power would come a little late than expected if you're switching between both the motorcycles like how we did. But as a motorcycle, the NS160 has evolved a lot as opposed to its predecessor. It has gained weight by a kg because of all the new mechanical components, but in terms of rideability as well, in terms of agility and in terms of feel for the rider, it has become excellent. The 160 does feel like a very well proportionate motorcycle. Also on that note, the NS160 has a perfect 50-50 weight distribution over each axle, so that will make this motorcycle very much agile on the streets, and also if you are feeling a little bit adventurous even on the track as well. In terms of braking, it is on point. You don't have much weight to play around. The brakes are on point. It is good in terms of progression impression and also in terms of initial bite. The engine is responsive, but you will have to ring the engine a lot to get the power out of this. It is a very high revving engine, and Bajaj says that this bike is made to rev higher. And in terms of power, this produces 17.2 PS of power at 9000 RPM and 14.6 Newton meters of torque at 7250 RPM. It gets a 5-speed gearbox as opposed to the 6-speed on the NS200. So in terms of performance, definitely this bike is of a different segment. But in terms of 160cc motorcycles that are out there, the NS160 I feel has gone up by several notches, and kudos to Bajaj for making this motorcycle performance oriented, even though it sits in the commuter segment bracket. So on that note, the NS160 is definitely gone up several notches and is now way closer to a bigger capacity motorcycles and punches way above its weight. So that was our take on the new 2023 NS Twins. Both motorcycles have got significant upgrade. The USD folks have made a ton of difference in how the motorcycle behaves around the track and also on the real world conditions as well. But what I feel is the NS160 has gotten a lot more better and is a lot more premium, and it'll attract those mass commuter buyers into premium biking segment, which Bajaj intends to do with the all new NS160. And when it comes to the NS200, it was already an appealing bike in the 200cc segment. With the introduction of USD folks, it has gotten a lot more better in terms of the overall experience. What did you think about the updates on these two motorcycles? Let us know in the comments below. Like and share this video, and do subscribe to Drive Spark if you haven't done it already. This is Bharadwaj, and these are the NS Twins 2023 edition, and I shall see you in the next one. And punches way about. Now these are changed on both the models. Subscribe to Drive Spark if you haven't done it already. This